not LGBTQ plus affirming want to dismiss trans and non-binary identities, the discussion quite often gravitates toward Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. The text says the following: God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. The argument then goes that the text clearly states that God created human beings to be either male or female, that the gender that was assigned at birth is the gender that God intended for that human being to have. And where the argument really takes an unsettling turn is when the case is made that to reject one's God-given gender is also to reject the image of God within them. Which, as you can imagine, this reasoning naturally leads many Christians to dehumanize trans and non-binary people, because in their mind, that person has rejected the image of God within them. Yet I think that misses the entire point of the text. This text was written during a time where women were thought of as less than human. So for the author to assert that women were also made in the image of God was to assert that all people were created in the image of God. The intention of the text was to include rather than to exclude a particular group of people. So any use of the text that dehumanizes a group of people misses the heart of the text. Then there's the issue of handling the text like a science book. While I do think that the authors thought of sex and gender as one of them the same, I don't think that Genesis 1 should be handled as a science book. Genesis 1 and 2 are poetry. They contain rhythmic language. They contain deferring accounts. And they contain ideas about the world that we now know to be false. For example, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6, God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters, to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. You see, in the ancient world, it was believed that the reason the sky was blue was because there was water up there, and that the horizon rounded because it was a dome. So you can imagine the ancient model of the earth looking like an upside-down fishbowl surrounded by tons of water on the outside. Several artists have actually taken it upon themselves to draft up what the earth looked like according to a literal interpretation of the Bible. And you can see some of the illustrations here, and you can clearly see that Genesis 1 and other creation accounts in the scriptures are not accurate scientific depictions of the world. All of this to say, when we discuss sexual orientation, I'm not so sure we should look super literally at the creation accounts. But the question still yields, what did the ancient readers think of trans and non-binary identities? We will see that while they wouldn't have used the terminology we use today, they certainly had a more complex understanding of gender than simply male and female. There is a text called the Talmud. It is a vast body of rabbinic literature that seeks to interpret the laws of the Torah more intricately based on difficult circumstances people faced, as well as various interpretations of stories within the Hebrew scriptures. Naturally, in the ancient world, many of the laws, they centered around gender. Males followed certain laws, and females followed certain laws. Yet rabbis over time continuously found that there were plenty of people that didn't quite fit into the easy category of male or female. So, within the Talmud, the rabbis actually speak about 8 different genders, 2 of which are what we would traditionally just say male and female, while 6 are more of a spectrum beyond the binary. Here are the 8 genders. 1 is Zakar, which is male. 2 is Nikavah, which is female. 3 is androgynous, having both male and female characteristics. 4 is Tumtum, lacking sexual characteristics. Number 5 is Elunit Hama, which was identified female at birth, but later naturally developing male characteristics. Number 6 was Elunit Adam, which was identified female at birth, but later developing male characteristics through human intervention. 7 is Saris Hama, which was identified male at birth, but later naturally developing female characteristics. Number 8 is Saris Adam, which was identified male at birth and later developing female characteristics through human intervention. You can see how many of the genders listed would likely line up with some of the forms of gender expression as we understand them today. Ancient rabbis had a nuanced understanding of gender. They, of course, still had a long way to go, but hey, so do all of us. This understanding, though, it opens up the floodgates for theologians and all Christians to consider the reality of diversity and how we are to live in light of this. We won't always know exactly how society and our churches should operate pragmatically as our understanding of gender and sexual orientation evolves. But like the rabbis, we can have a mind that is open-minded, that embraces nuance and seeks to be open to listening to trans and non-binary voices. All the while, we will be wise to keep in mind the teaching of Genesis 1:27, that everyone is made in the image of God. Every single human being has inherent worth and dignity, and we should treat them as such.